Welcome to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany, where naturally minded women gather together as we pursue simplicity and confidence in health alternatives so we can show up better in our busy lives and feel more at home in our bodies. Join your favorite home birth midwife duo for conversation, candor, and community.
You're at home with Kelly and Tiffany.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm Tiffany.
I'm Kelly. And you're at home.
This is the Ask Us Anything episode.
Ooh.
If you are new around here, this is something we do, I don't know, once a season or so. Just kind of like give the audience an opportunity to ask a bunch of random questions.
I love random questions. Sometimes those are even more fun, right? Than like, sometimes you ask very thoughtful questions about something about your hormones or whatever. And then sometimes there's just random questions. And I'm like, this is like getting to know each other really well.
Getting to know you. Getting to know all the answers to my question. One of the things that I would like to bring to light is that Kelly and I are on a forever endeavor to discover ways that we are different.
We have discovered many a way that we are the same. And I feel like we're slowly, maybe not slowly anymore, just morphing into a very similar person.
You spend enough time with somebody doing really concise activities in a very particular way, and you love that person, and you want to continue to do more of those things, or anything at all with that person, you will adopt and morph and change.
But each time we do discover something, we get kind of excited.
Because we do want to be two different people. We do want to maintain our own individual identities.
We would sometimes. But yes.
So we've started when we discover that there's something different about us. And we're like, see, there's 4 things now.
We found a thing.
4 things that make us different.
Yep.
One of the things that I have learned most recently is that thanks to my sauna bag infatuation, which is another thing Kelly is also very into. I hate when sweat drips into my ears. I actually have to push something in there and dab it. And I have multiple concocted ways to catch the sweat to keep it from going into my ears.
Have any of them worked?
No, but I'm so close to putting just cotton balls in there to see if that will catch it. It drives me crazy. So one day I was like, Kelly, isn't the sweat dripping into your ears the actual worst? And she said, oh, actually, I really like that.
I find that particular type of sweat into my ear, into my eyes. I'm sorry, guys. I find it so satisfying. There's something about like how much I am sweating that I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting into these like random places.
I love the sweating.
Yeah.
But the fact that you like it going there is very upsetting to me.
It's good that we feel differently, but for sure I get a sense of satisfaction from it.
Here's another way that we're different. This is also somewhat recent. I can't believe that we've known each other for this long and spent this amount of personal and professional time together, and we still get to learn new things about each other.
It's great.
When my leg falls asleep and it's coming back to life, I need to stay very, very still, because if I move it, it's very overwhelming. It's a very overwhelming sensation for me. Kelly, on the other hand, has to move it, and in fact likes to shake it and thump it in order to hasten the coming alive process. And I just can't even imagine it.
Maybe that's another word. I can use that word too. It feels satisfying because I'm like, I am exerting my power over this thing that is happening in my body. And actually it's almost like a hurt so good situation where I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel good, but it's like good.
It kills me.
Satisfying.
Kills me. Okay, and the last thing, I've known this about you, but I'm just like really learning it about you. Do you hand wash any of your dishes, or do they all go into the dishwasher?
They're
minimally washed if they're washed.
And it's pretty much all dishwasher all the time, right?
For me, yes. My husband loves to hand wash dishes.
Oh, he does.
There's something satisfying about it for him. That's the opposite for me.
And that I am a hand washer.
Yeah.
I only will put like dishes and utensils in the dishwasher, but everything I cook on, I will hand wash and dry.
Yeah, that's my husband. And I'm like, I don't care. Put it in the dishwasher. Let it do the thing that it's supposed to do.
How often do you get something out of the dishwasher that was cooked on and it isn't quite clean?
I mean, for actual things that I'm cooking on, I do a bit before I put it in there.
You scrub some of the scrub off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I probably don't need to put most of the things that I cook on in there, but I'm like, well, I'm just in the zone and I'm doing it.
Shove it in there and hit the button. Okay.
I will say, like, we have some expensive cookware that, like, we got for our wedding 15 years ago that I still do that with, and it's in stellar condition.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
I don't do it for the maintenance part because I don't own anything that's very nice that I'm like, don't put in, except our knives. We did just recently splurge on knives, and I'm like, do not put those in the dishwasher, fam.
Don't even look at those.
Okay, but here's the other problem with this. Not with you. I love what you're doing. It's great. I want to be more like you, so I'm trying to relax in this area to see if I could put cookware in the dishwasher kind of person. But what happens with me is I need to go use a thing that's still dirty in the dishwasher before I've run the dishwasher. So now I have to get it out of the dishwasher, clean it so that I can use it for the next thing that I want it for.
Gotcha.
Do you not run into that problem?
Not really, but we also have a lot of pan stuff. So we don't. There's been times, certainly, where I'm like, that particular pan is a thing that I use for this particular thing. I'm like, well, I'll deal with it. But I also run the dishwasher a decent amount, too.
It has to be every day.
Yeah.
At least.
I run it after 9 p.m. Actually, now that we're on solar, I don't really think it. Anyway, yeah.
Fascinating.
It is a way we are different.
And this is good. This is good.
Yes.
We will continue to discuss this.
Let me just throw out, though, it always reminds me, in our wedding, like at our wedding reception, we had this book where there were pictures of us and like sentences that people could finish, like writing in our guest book. So it'd be, like, fill in the rest of the sentence to like give us some wisdom or whatever. And one of them was like the thing that I've learned most about marriage or something was my dad's best friend. He had been married 3 times over his life. And his thing was like, one thing I've learned about marriage is ... And he just wrote, everybody loads the dishwasher differently, like love Tom. And so it's always stayed with me. And whenever I'm at my parents' house, whatever, and I'm like judging the way that they put stuff in their dishwasher, or even when I see my husband loading our dishwasher, I'm like, no wonder you hand wash because
this
you're not
is
doing it correctly.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the dishwasher differently.
I do not usually reorganize someone else's dishwasher. I'm just like, whatever, this is
chaos.
This is chaos. You live in the consequence of this. But I frequently will redo my own dishwasher at home.
Yep.
Based off of the other people who live with me and think that the dishes go in a certain way.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys.
We could fit 25% more things in here if it's rearranged.
My kids only just figured out that they need to put the cups upside down. This was like last month where I was like, how are we surviving here? Think about things, guys. Come on. Anyway.
So good.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about how people make decisions, because that's a big part of the questions that are getting asked here today. People want a little bit of guidance on decision making.
Okay.
And tell me, what are the last, 2 or 3 big decisions that you had to make that just took some thought of like, oh, I need to collect information. I need to talk about this. I need to pray about this. I need to spend time.
Yeah, I mean, we came off, I feel like 2022 was a big year of decision making. Like we were trying to decide if we were going to move out of the state. We were trying to decide if we were going to buy a house. Like there was we were trying to decide what my husband's career was going to look like. There was just those were those are probably the last like huge decisions we had to make. There's been plenty of smaller where I'm like, should I get ducks or not? Or like, what curriculum should we use for this thing? Even though those are smaller, less intense decisions, I still feel like I go through the same process when I'm having to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like big or small. Of course, some of them are much weightier, but having a solid way of recognizing how you think through things is so helpful. It can make me feel grounded as I potentially feel out of control with decision making.
Yeah, I think pregnancy is an especially unique time that we get to experience with women because there's so many decisions that have to be made, and the implications of them just feel greater because it involves your baby and your health and, you know, your vision for the day that you have your baby. So it all is just very weighty. We have the benefit of walking through that informed decision-making process with women, which is kind of exciting. And I have isolated 4 ways to use research for the purpose of making an informed decision.
Sweet.
Number 1 is understand what is important to you and how you usually make decisions. This is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to make decisions from a different place and a different perspective, and you need to embrace what it is that's important to you. I think that this is a step that is skipped over many times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2 is identify your preferred way to learn. Whether that's collecting information from other people, doing research on the internet, listening to podcasts, reading a book. You don't have to do all of it.
Yeah.
Just find your one way of this is how I collect information and just go for it.
What's your way? What's your preferred way?
It kind of depends on the
thing.
season.
Yeah.
I will most likely run to a book first.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something I need a quick answer to, then I'll do some research online.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, I need to learn a new way of thinking or a new method of doing my life, or I need to learn something that I'm hoping to like implement in a long-term way,
Mm-hmm.
I will dive deep into books and audiobooks.
Yes. Feel ya.
Number 3 is know the limitations of the source that you are asking.
Mm-hmm.
Another big one that's kind of skipped over, because if you are especially looking for expertise or opinions or recommendations from a certain person, we all have biases and opinions, and going to a person or a source and expecting to get an answer that is just not realistic from that particular source is going to potentially throw you back in the decision-making process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, number 4, discuss with others who share your values.
Yeah, I mean, even just the process of being like, not even asking for what would you do, but being able to have space to process with other people who can actually give feedback.
Yeah, I think a lot of times women especially want to process out loud, and doing that in a space that is with someone who just has radically different ways of doing life, you could just avoid many setbacks from doing that.
Yeah, 100%. So there's 4 solid suggestions there.
Let's lay some foundation for some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Because these questions end up being the answers end up being a lot of our opinion.
Yeah, true. Yes. Know the limitations of your source.
Okay, the first question today. This one's really fun. This is what the listener says. I've been listening to the podcast Organic Olivia, which we love, where she interviews 2 ladies, Unique Hammond and Karen. She forgot her last name, and now I did too, but I did look it up. And they talk all about something called the Bean Protocol, which is so fascinating. I've thought about trying it for hormone balance. Have you heard about it? What are your thoughts?
So I really enjoy this podcast. I don't listen to all of them. Some of them are a little too like mystical in their,
presentation.
Yes, which is just not my thing. But some of the things that she talks about are so different than anything else I'm exposed to in other places. And she's an herbalist, has a ton of great information on that, and just talks about women's health in just these really interesting ways. And even if I'm not like, I'm going to follow this thing, I just enjoy the people that she has on and their particular perspectives. This one was recommended on my podcast, following multiple times this like bean episode. And she even has multiple times called herself a beanfluencer, like hashtag beanfluencer. I never have listened to it specifically because I was like, I don't think I want to know. You know, sometimes when you're just like, I recognize that's out there. I don't think I can take in this information right now.
Yep. That is a lot of how I sort through my own life,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you come across information that potentially contradicts something that you
Mm-hmm.
that is already working really well for you.
Right.
But I could not help it. After getting this question, I felt like there was enough interest here that I finally dove in. I went back and listened to the episode, and something worth trying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Essentially, the concept of the bean protocol is that beans are incredibly nutrient dense and especially fibrous. And the fiber, as you guys know, just from listening to nutritional content about hormone balancing, fiber is really important for prebiotic, so helping a probiotic seed and have fertile soil in your gut, and as a vector for hormonal detox. Fiber is used inside of the digestive system in order to help move excess hormone out of your body. The big issue with bean ends up
What could it be?
ends up being that there's a lot of digestive upset and complaint, especially from women who have just sometimes are more sensitive to legumes, and they also can get a bad rap nutritionally for mold exposure or other unsafe ways of being processed and stored and all of that stuff. So as I was consuming this information on this episode, it was pretty compelling that she addresses these limitations of what women, typically see. And she says that it's an excellent source of fat. It's an excellent source of fiber. It's an excellent source and sustainable and cheap and readily available protein. And you can mitigate the digestive upset to where she's got hundreds and hundreds of women on this protocol if you start very slow with small portions of beans. And the concept is having a little bit each day and working up to having a little bit in each meal and reducing some of the elements of the beans and the enzymes that cause digestive upset by eating pressure cooked. So soaking and pressure cooking the beans tends to reduce that inflammatory gas causing stomach upsetting issue.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what the protocol was. Obviously, I was like, oh, this sounds like too much. That doesn't sound excessive.
Nope.
I'm glad you listened.
It is really simple.
I eat beans a decent amount. I enjoy them.
Yeah. So I think it could definitely be something to try. Her claims for how it works are backed in a lot of research. She has borrowed this concept from another researcher who I listened to a couple of episodes that she has done on the podcast. The guest shows that she has done on other people's podcasts. So I did kind of do a little deep diving into it and found it to be compelling enough that I think it would be worth trying.
You're a beanfluencer now.
I don't know if we've gone that far. I don't know if we've gone that far to the beanfluencing. But I think at the end of the day, there's not any one method. There's not any one type of food or food group that is going to completely rescue you from a more complex situation. So I don't think beans are going to be the answer for hormonal imbalances, even though it's tempting to gravitate towards this one thing where you're like, I can eat some beans. Let's do that. But an overall emphasis on wellness around this topic and just good general health principles with keeping root cause treatment in mind.
Yeah.
Not throwing beans on hormonal imbalance symptoms, but potentially using it as a food as medicine tool that is addressing the reason that there's hormonal imbalances.
Thank you for doing that in-depth research for us.
It was fun.
Yeah. That's great.
It was great. I'm so glad this person asked this question.
Yeah. Tiff texted me and was like, have you ever listened to that one? And I was like, I put my head in the sand on that one.
Okay, next question. Are midwives only for pregnant women? Can you go to a midwife for just a yearly vaginal health checkup?
No, we are not just for pregnant women. We've had a few other episodes, even just recently talking about pap smears too. We see women for all different types of things. We see them for pap smears and lab work and things like that. We see them for chatting about your own birth questions and things for your hospital birth, potentially. We see women for hormonal imbalances, for thyroid issues, for trying to conceive, for fertility issues and stuff. And so we see women for a lot of things. We do have virtual visits available also. So if you're like, oh, I don't need somebody for like a vaginal exam or health checkup, whatever, but have some questions, we are available.
And we are.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. I heard you talking about applying coconut oil vaginally in several episodes for infections or lubricant or maybe even something else. Does it not mess with your pH since it's got a much higher pH than your vagina? And I appreciated this question because number one, it demonstrates that the listener has taken in a lot of information.
Yes, absolutely.
And number two, she wants to challenge some of that with some other information that she has, that's just always exciting for me because it's a critical thinking piece.
Yes, absolutely. And recognizing that, as you were talking about earlier, like the source of where you always just want to be like, am I getting the correct information? Is this the right thing for me? And actually consuming the information for true health is always great.
Yeah. And so like the short answer is coconut oil works for some women and it really doesn't work for others.
Mm-hmm.
There's pros and cons to it. Some of the pros are it's antimicrobial, it's antibacterial, it's readily available, it's cheap, it's a food or it's an oil you would eat, so it is safe to put on your body.
Yeah.
But women with a delicate pH system are going to have some issues with it potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neutral pH is around 7. So below 7, we call it acidic. That's where the vagina tends to kind of hang around. 4, which is very acidic. But the problem with raising pH is that it becomes more hospitable to bacterial overgrowth or just bacterial growth in general. However, there's multiple times in your cycle where it's coming up to neutral. And that's during menstruation and ovulation. It comes up to neutral. Coconut oil itself is like around a 6, so you're actually getting more alkaline when you have semen ejaculated into you.
Yeah.
Which could be, I don't know, every single day, right? So
go on with your bad self.
So your vagina at the peak of its health in balance is going to be able to handle these types of fluctuation.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, it's a great indicator that some more deeper diving needs to be
absolutely
done.
And like if every time you're having sex the next day, you're like, oh, something has happened, right? Your body is not responding to that pH shift well. That's been a flag for me. Would be like, oh, this area should not be that sensitive every single time. So
yeah. So then in that case, you might want to look for a pH sensitive lubricant.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Next question. What are tips for women with high testosterone and DHEA?
Which is a very informed question. I appreciate that somebody is asking and very aware of what's going on in their body.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's good to hear. Honestly, at the end of the day, understanding your hormones and balancing them, no matter what is high, what is low, what is, off, is going to be important because they're all talking to each other, right? So finding that homeostasis is always going to be what you're looking for. But in particular, assessing other signs and symptoms, this kind of comes along a lot of times with PCOS. And so looking in potentially to additional labs and monitoring kind of to assess if that is where you are currently finding yourself. Things like androgens, your insulin levels, blood sugar, what's going on in your follicular phase with your hormones. Of course, ultrasounds are helpful in that situation. As we talk about blood sugar and insulin, that's usually is really helpful for somebody as they're either trying to monitor, do I have PCOS, do I not, but also just what is happening within my body to do a home glucose monitor, like a glucometer that you can just grab at, CVS or something to monitor yourself. So those are sort of the the labs and the moving forward things, but things that you're just at home doing. I think one of the biggest pieces is just charting what's going on in your cycle, what your symptoms are, what you're experiencing daily throughout that cycle, what your period is like, assessing that so you can see the full picture of how your body is actually responding to what's going on with your hormones.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can have labs at the wazoo that are showing all kinds of crazy imbalanced stuff, but we're really interested in how those symptoms are manifesting, and your chart is a huge place to find that information. But also just, PCOS has a tendency to also have really overt signs of like acne and body hair and weight gain. And so when you're trending in that direction, it's usually pretty obvious. And PCOS is a complex hormone issue to sort out. We do have a module in our Fixing Your Period course on PCOS and just general period and hormone balancing stuff in there. But if all that you see flagged is testosterone and DHEA and you're still trying to put the picture together, go do our hormone reset.
Yeah, it's a super helpful email series that just walks you through stepping back, connecting with your body, and very practical pieces that you can do at home. You can begin implementing bit by bit throughout kind of this month-long walk through resetting some hormones.
Yeah, very cool.
I agree. Very cool.
2 more questions. One is, what tips do you have for eliminating excess candida? And I'm going to point women back to the Vaginal Health Masterclass because it is a free resource that goes all into every single thing that you can do in order to gain balance. In there, I will link it in the show notes that you guys can jump in and learn.
Yes. We focus like a ton on root cause rather than here's how you can make yourself feel better symptom-wise, actually going into how can we restore balance optimally and nourish our bodies optimally so that we are not dealing with that.
Yeah. And we do have some other podcasts on yeast and gut health and all of that stuff that we can link in show notes too, so that if you are particularly interested in this question, we can provide some more resources. Our last question. I know you work primarily with women in their childbearing years, but as I get towards the end of mine, I'm realizing how little I know what to expect of menopause. Do you have lady life information or advice to share with us regarding these age-related hormonal changes? And
love this question.
It's so good, right? Yeah. And so the reason I saved it for last is because that's what we're going to do our next episode on.
Yeah. And I think that this is an area of our seasonal, walks as women that does not get enough attention, especially from maybe our particular perspective on hormones and life and what is normal and what's not normal and what's common and yet not normal, and how to go about nourishing your body in a different season of life. And I've been thinking about that more and recognizing, as I have said goodbye to at least my own childbearing, recognizing the next season of life will be my body being like, and we are done with that season, and recognizing even we need a bit of support in that as well as things are shifting. And so I'm excited to talk more in depth about that. I think that'll be really useful and helpful, even if you are nowhere near that stage of life, to have some awareness of that. So,
well, I mean, like all things women's health, right? It's important to digest pregnancy information before you even get pregnant.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we apply that to menopause information and support too, so that you're not caught unawares?
You're into that.
We were not able to get to all of our questions, but I did read all of the questions, and I have quite a few of them tabbed to dive into just periodically in future episodes. So do know that that is a great place for you guys to submit information and your own just quandaries. We love being able to answer questions, and we'll definitely do an episode like this again to catch up on the bulk of them.
It was fun kind of like bouncing from topic to topic.
Yeah,
like just throwing different stuff out there.
I love that too.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, hopefully this was helpful for you ladies, and keep asking questions because we love to hear them.
Bye.